Good morning and welcome to the Hypto cryptocurrency review. And remember, we are licensed to give advice in futures, and the cryptocurrencies, the ICOs, the tokens are not advice. These are my own charting skills. So to the extent that this is advice, is our disclaimer and warning, and we'll be clarifying the difference between the two shortly. So just remember, this is general advice only by Desk Trading Proprietary Limited, a corporate authorised representative, AR 289519 of Alpha Securities, which is AFSL, Australian Financial Services Licence 330757. So I hope everyone can hear me and see me clearly and naturally. And the big thing today is that we have some new contracts, a new contract which has arrived on the scene. And that new contracts, those new contracts, or at least the CME contract, has, I think, overshadowed I feel that the CME contract will overshadow the, one moment, there's something weird going on with my recording, my recording. Very strange. Okay, I'll have to go into a different, just my drag and the normal transcript for the Profit Hunters is not, oh, here we go. I think it's working. The transcript. Okay, I'll fix that later. While I'm doing this, how is everyone going? Hasn't it been great with the cryptos? Making more money faster with less risk than I've ever experienced, and less. You don't need big position sizes in these cryptos to really get yourself some money. Beautiful to see. It really is. Okay, so I've sorted this out in a little while. So today we see the introduction of the CME Bitcoin futures contract. And this futures contract allows for 5 Bitcoin per contract versus the CBOE's 1 Bitcoin contracts. This will be a much more interesting feature of a futures contract for a large trader. When I was operating and trading and hedging in the interest rate futures markets and the commodities markets for large corporations and banks, we didn't want to just trade in a $25,000 or a $20,000 parcel. We wanted to trade in millions of dollars parcels, new line. The more contracts you have, the more annoyance you have. So a larger contract suits a larger player. So this is really the futures contract that will have larger players interested. Now, there were volatility cutoffs on the CBOE contract, which shut down, I believe, for 2 minutes or so. And it was hard to work out what those contracts would close off at in terms of volatility, new line. Things were unclear. Now, personally, I am not a fan of market shutdowns for any reason. I think it's immature and unnecessary to do that, and it shows a distrust of the market. Proceeds, new line. I don't believe in any limit up or limit down moves, new line. The CME will briefly pause, and it's not clear what briefly pause means, but it will briefly pause at 7% and 13% variation in price, new line. I believe that is in the nature of 2 minutes. There will be a cutoff and it will stop trading at 20% up, which makes it fairly useless for major Bitcoin players to play in when they're already able to trade in Bitcoin exchanges at higher prices than where the CME has cut off, new line. So this is another flawed design, but it will attract more institutional interest. Full stop. The CBOE contract had margins of 44% on longs and 240% on shorts dictated by the exchange. Full stop. Now, this exchange is an options market rather than a futures market, and so it really only attracted interest on the first day, and contracts became less interesting. And so people were not trading it, they only traded it for the novelty, new line. So there'll be some stale old positions there, new line. Now, brokers can set their margins to their clients, and Goldman Sachs kindly set 100% margin on longs, new line. Interactive brokers set a 50% margin on longs, new line. And so broker meanness can come in. Now, if you ask me, if I have to put a 240% deposit on shorting something, I'll go and use a different exchange that is shortable. And there are a couple out there that are not regulated, however, new line. One Profit Hunter Group member has been using options on the Deribit exchange. Which also has futures. Forgive me, there's something gone terribly wrong with my Dragon today. Anyway, let's not worry about the recording. I was wanting to at least the transcript. So here we have some very high options volatility in various calls and And the volatility in the options is very high. When I first looked at this options area, it had volatility of some 80 to 90 and sometimes 100%. Now the volatility appears to be getting towards 499% in these times that are expiring on the 22nd of December, which is very, very high, new line. We see the options also showing very high volatility for another week out. So it's very expensive options to buy. There are also futures contracts. And these are very short-dated futures contracts. And you can see that the futures contracts are already trading over US $20,000, despite the fact that this market is probably not trading above there at this point. So it will be certainly interesting to see what goes down, new line. Meanwhile, back in Bitcoin land, BTC USD, Bitcoin, we can see quite clearly that Bitcoin tried close to $20,000 and is struggling a little bit, new line. Now on Friday, I said that we might be starting to get some increase in interest in Bitcoin, and we certainly saw it surge through that $18,000 level. And on Friday, I was encouraging people to buy as much as they had to if they were not already exposed. Now, we can see that it's traveling within the lower boundary of the pitchfork, and so we have to be a little bit cautious about this. If you are long, have a stop loss at 18,000, and I did say that the energy starts to hit the system quite strongly from today and tomorrow onwards, new line. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some institutional buying of futures, which may need to be hedged in the physical Bitcoin exchanges from those people who are taking the other side of the trade. So If the trend is to continue, it's going to start today and should run into the 3rd of January and probably see something close to 30,000 US dollars, but more likely 25,000 US dollars. Yes, I'm showing my charts, but obviously that's not happening there. Okay. It did say it was showing my charts as well. So here's the charts. And here's the screens that you missed out on. And my dragon is completely destroying me, and the screen is doing really weird shit too. I don't know what's going on with my computer. Anyway, the charts work, so who gives a shit? And here are the differences between those contracts. Okay, so you can see what I've been saying. And this is the page for the Bitcoin futures. So as you know, I was thinking that the market would have a correction and hopefully a deeper dip than it did into Monday. And obviously it started up with strength again, new line. If central banks have to start owning Bitcoin for their reserves, as well as special drawing rights or SDRs, and holding other currencies, other countries' currencies for their reserves, and they need to buy Bitcoin, Bitcoin could be close to at least $100,000. And the way that it's constructed, Bitcoin has a tendency to go up in the long run because of its scarcity of supply. Only 21 million Bitcoin will ever be made, and I think there's only about 3,300,000 to go. So you will know now why I quite like Bitcoin. And the amount of people who argue and tell me it's a scam only makes me even feel better. And the ignorance that goes on in most financial advisors about Bitcoin is incredible. The fear and loathing is strange to me. New line. Bitcoin Cash, BCH USD. Now this has gone up a bit. I was saying I expected it to go towards about those high levels, which we saw previously, around about $2,800, if I remember correctly. And it's still continuing that journey without much conviction, but otherwise it's kind of okay because it's related, and the stop loss should be below $1,300 if you are long and trying to hold in for $2,800. BTG USD, Bitcoin Gold. We can see that Bitcoin Gold has been just chopping and churning and really is not an inspiring currency. It may get up to $400. Your stop loss if buying is below $200, new line. You would buy dips down to $240, new line. DSH USD. One of our PHG members has been excited because he bought a lot of Dash when it was lower down, and he also sold some of those Dash, so has a bit of regret about doing that, new line. That seller's regret is something that I have had on every Bitcoin that I have sold to take profit on and look to rebuy. That is why I set up my special way of buying Bitcoin, so that I didn't get tempted to take profit on all of my Bitcoin holdings. So yes, I've made money trading this, and I don't think I've made any losses at all in my Bitcoin trading and crypto trading to date, touching wood wherever it is. But in the long run, this trend is so strong, and it's undeniably clear that money is leaving the system of the normal currencies and moving into cryptocurrencies at an exponentially increasing rate. And most people have not started to even think about getting an account and get started. So Dash, we might think that it's probably going up to $1,200. If you are long, stop can be at $900 now, new line. EOS USD. Now, I have been a fan of EOS USD, or EOS, since 60 cents. And volume is just saying this is going up. It may want to drop back down to about $6.80, but from there it's a buy with the stop loss below $4, looking towards extremely high possibilities. People ask if they should be buying IOTA or EOS, and I say EOS, new line. Ethereum, new line. Ethereum startled me by its strength, I must say, last week. and exceeded my expectations of where it should go on a number of counts. So the next target is towards $745 new line. You would buy dips down to $640 with a stop loss below $600. IoT USD, IOTA. We can see IOTA has gone into a triangle and should press higher. New line. I would say $7 would be a good target once this triangle is complete. At the moment, dips to buy are down to $3 with a stop loss below $2.50. LTC USD, new line. Litecoin also was a phenomenal mover last week, and we can see that it's up a bit today and volume is excellent. Dips to buy would be down to $225. If you get them, new line. The stop loss should be below $200. Daily chart, a bit of an expanding triangle appearing, which makes it a bit trickier. And if you need my help, just dial into profithunters.com.au and ask me the question. NEO USD, NEO, NEO. Also showing great strength and probably looking towards $100. Dips to buy are down to $60 with a stop loss below $52. Power ledger. Now this is compared against the US dollar, sorry, against Bitcoin and not the US dollar. And as a result, it appears different. But we do see some good buying against Bitcoin. Clearance above 4,600 parts per Bitcoin. Would be bullish, looking for a run towards about 6,000 parts per Bitcoin. If you are buying it, you can also buy dips down to 3,760 parts per Bitcoin with a stop loss below 3,511 parts per Bitcoin. I do believe that it is forming a base. The trick is to find where the base breaks from, because this will be probably a powerful move. XRP, USD, Ripple. Now, Ripple is allegedly forming a triangle, and you could probably buy dips down towards 60 or 63 cents with a target towards 90 cents. Or you could wait for a break above 77 cents to buy with a stop loss below 70 cents, new line. ZEC USD. We can see this walking up a little bit. It's a little bit tired, but it could do with a little pop towards about $550 or $575. Stop loss below $5, sorry, $470. XVG USD. The good thing about this is it's had a good run up and now it's having a good correction. So somewhere into the $0.038 region would be optimal in my opinion, with a stop loss below 3 cents for buying into. Ask me if you have any concerns and worries about that. Any other questions on cryptocurrencies, or shall we get into the market that is the Forex and commodities? Okay, fantastic. I have to get my transcript working a little bit better because I did a few changes over the weekend and I don't have my normal hotkeys that can allow me to trip in and out. Have a good one. I'm now closing down the cryptocurrency report. Cheers.